Welcome to the Someday Life podcast. I'm the host and founder, Justin Christensen. Have you ever thought to yourself, someday I will do it? Or I can't do that, but maybe someday I will? Of course you have. We all have. Well, guess what, folks? Life is too short to wait for someday. To change your situation, you must change your state of mind. To change your state of mind, you must rewire your mentality. This show will help you conquer the mental, physical, and financial challenges that are holding you back. Not only from the life you want, but the life you deserve. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Super excited to share this episode with you. My guest is Keaton Hoskins, aka The Muscle. I'm sure most of you know him from the hit TV show Diesel Brothers on the Discovery Channel. If you haven't done so already, please jump over to Instagram and Facebook and follow the podcast at Someday Life Podcast. And make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're one of the visual podcast viewers. This episode is sponsored by Idaho realtor Jennifer McCulloch with Century 21 High Desert. In this competitive market, having a representative that has knowledge and expertise makes all the difference. Many people have had the thought of waiting for the market to calm down before buying, but the sad truth is, guys, the market's not expected to do that here locally. So if you're living in Southeast Idaho, you owe it to yourself to speak with Jennifer. She is available via phone or text at 208-520-2012. Without further ado, here is the podcast episode with Keaton Hoskins. Thanks everybody for the support. Much love. I'm being a homer today.
I love it. I love it, man.
Yeah, dude, that's actually what I mean, we'll kind of jump into it because I know you're kind of short on time and got a busy schedule and stuff. But yeah, I was like, dude, I got to rock my One Mission nutrition stuff today if I'm talking to Keaton. Dude, I got to say this, though. Like the protein. So I'm the vanilla ice cream dude.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm a chocolate ice cream guy, actually. But dude, that protein is fire. It's so good.
It's good, huh? I'm the same. So I wanted chocolate. That's what I wanted. And when I talked with our distributor, the distributor's a good friend of mine. And he was like, honestly, man, chocolate isn't as popular as vanilla. He's like, by like 75% more people want vanilla. So I was like, damn it. All right. So when we got it, I was almost like frustrated about the fact that I didn't have chocolate. And then when I had it, like, oh, this is good. We're good.
What I liked about it, I mean, I don't know, I've been getting your guys' products for probably like the last 6 months or so. Cause like some protein, it like irritates the hell out of my stomach for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get to a point where so my stomach's really sensitive. In fact, I'm working with a gut specialist. So everything that we have, if it doesn't pass my personal ones, I can't do it because I can't have a product that I personally can't even take, you know? And I have a really, I don't know what it is. And we're kind of doing tests and trying to figure it out, but I've got a really sensitive stomach. So if it's bad, I'll know right away. Yeah.
You know, I like the greens, like the green superfood mix. Like I was a little hesitant with that because I'm just like reading the ingredients. I'm just like, man, is this gonna be like taking a shot of hay and alfalfa or what?
Exactly what I thought.
But the blueberry, like that blueberry comes through so smooth. And I'm just like, dude, this stuff's legit. I can drink it. Yeah. I mean, I just gulp it down because I'm kind of a texture guy. But
for sure, me too.
Dude, I love that stuff.
Yeah, I'm not a huge vegetable fan, although recently with my gut specialist, I've been working on eating vegetables. That's why we made that, because I hate vegetables. But same thing, dude. I thought when we got the samples, I was reading everything and I thought, oh shit, there is no way. It's just going to taste horrible. So when I drank it, I was beside myself. Now, I'm not going to tell anyone that it tastes delicious. But what I will say is it's definitely much better than eating celery and carrots and grass and lettuce and, you know, all of that stuff. Because I'm not a vegetable guy.
Yeah, I can eat broccoli and that's about it, man. Like a broccoli with some chicken and some like venison, you know, I can do that. Okay. If I steam it, but like raw, I don't know. I usually got to just dunk that stuff in ranch or something, bro.
Same. That's probably why I have stomach issues.
Hey, I was going to talk to you. Like, so, I mean, obviously you're big into fitness and health and stuff. And so I think we share a lot of similarities. Like I've been kind of shorter in stature. I'm only 5'9", but I've always been super stocky. And like in high school and football, I was lifting a lot of weights and stuff, and I was really strong, like squatting 515 when I was a senior, benching 335, but just always been like thick in stature, you know? And
Yeah.
for the longest time when I was younger, it really affected me because I wasn't like this ripped cut guy, but I was just strong as shit,
Yeah.
and I could push iron
Yeah.
around. And once I started kind of burning off some of that younger fat when I was in high school and then got into my young 20s and stuff is really where I got in good shape and felt good about myself. But I've always carried around extra fat, you know, like haven't really had the six pack. I'll have like maybe two up top and stuff, and I can kind of see a little bit of my obliques a little bit, but it's kind of affected me mentally. And it's funny because some of the guys that I've met later in life, like we carry like this fat kid syndrome around with us, yet we're like strong, good looking, healthy. But have you kind of dealt with that through your life? Because you've been a bigger guy, playing college football and, things like that. And I see on your Instagram and stuff, sometimes you kind of talk about it. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? And how do you think we should approach that as being kind of bigger men?
You know what, man? That's a battle. I've learned in my life that everybody wants what they don't have, right? So like the really shredded skinny guy wants to be huge. The really big guy wants to be shredded. And then everywhere in between. And I'm the same, man. I have struggled genetically to be anywhere near look like I'm in good shape. It's just, I've always been a big, fat, strong dude. That's just what it's been, you know? I was 240, 250 as a sophomore in high school, and it served my purpose well because I was a great football player. And then I actually went on an LDS mission, and I came back and I was like 290, and I gained all my size, and I was just a big guy. And man, I got to a point in 2014 where I decided I was going to do nothing else but focus on bodybuilding. And so I did a bodybuilding show, and man, I'll tell you what, I worked harder, and I can, pridefully say this. I worked harder than anyone at that show. I'm positive of it. And the reason I know that is because I know what it takes to get ready for a show. I have really good friends who compete, and, some of my best friends are the Mr. Olympias, Jay Cutler, Flex Lewis. And watching what they do and what normal people did to get on stage was nothing compared to what I did. I mean, dude, I went 10 months with no cheat meals. I was eating 3 fish meals a day. I was eating I never cheated. I was doing 2 hours of cardio every day. I mean, I overdid it, but it was the only way to get my physique to even close to being ready for stage. And that's the time that I thought, I'm stepping back. I'm not going to do this shit anymore. It's too hard. And so now what I found is you need to find a good balance in life that you can. I eat healthy, I work out, I exercise, I feel good, and I look fairly good, and let go of this idea that you're ever going to be this shredded genetic freak that just looks crazy all the time. I have really good friends that are that way, man. I have really good friends that are just shredded all the time. We just went to Mexico with my really good friend, Dana Bailey. And dude, Dana was eating just as much, the same exact food I was eating in Mexico. But guess what? She came back leaner. I came back 13 pounds heavier. Like, what you have to understand is genetics plays a huge, huge role in how you look. It just does. And when you can attack that elephant in the room and be really open and honest about it, then you can get to a place where essentially you can make some changes. For me, if I wanted to look like that, I would essentially have to dedicate most of my day to diet, weightlifting, and cardio to get to that level, right? Yeah. Whereas some people do 2 hours a day, maybe you need to do 6 hours a day. Genetics plays a huge role. And the truth is I don't want that. I want to spend time with my family. I want to make a lot of money. I want to be successful in relationships, and I want to look good and feel good. So even though that's up there on my priorities, I don't have more than an hour or maybe an hour or two a day to commit to that stuff. And that's kind of the idea.
Yeah. I mean, you would agree that I mean, if you had to put a percentage on it, like how much of it's dieting versus like actual exercise and strength training?
So I'll say this, and I really believe this number. I think 70% of what you look like is genetics. I think 20 to 25% is your diet. And then I think 5 to maybe 10% is your actual exercising.
Wow.
And the reason I say that is because of my own personal experience. I can always outwork someone at the gym, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to look better than them. It just doesn't, and I can I can go 100% in diet and exercise, and I won't look nearly as good as the guy that his genetics are just freaking crazy. Yeah. And there's science behind that too. Like, most people don't know this, but like, you know who Jay Cutler is?
Oh yeah.
So this is funny. Every single Mr. Olympia from all the way back into the 60s until today has had the exact same blood type.
Serious? Like Ronnie Coleman, Arnold, all those
yes,
guys.
Every single one of them has had the same blood type. And if you look back, minus one person, if you look back through the years, you will never, ever, ever see a Mr. Olympia that's fat and out of shape. You'll never see it. You will see a big Mr. Olympia. You'll see a bulky Mr. Olympia, but you'll never, ever see a fat Mr. Olympia. And it's because it's not in their genetics to even get there. I mean, dude, you got to look at Ronnie Coleman right now. He doesn't exercise or do anything. He can barely walk and move, and the guy is shredded to the bone.
Yeah.
Jay Cutler's 48 years old. I've worked out with him maybe 20 times. His workout routine is he walks for 1.5 miles and then he lifts for about 45 minutes. The guy looks ridiculous. Genetics is a huge, huge role. And if you don't accept that, you can't really fix anything according to that.
Yeah. So what's this? You were telling me that you're seeing like a gut specialist. Is there? I've heard a lot. Like I've heard Joe Rogan talk about this a lot with, like gut bacteria and having a healthy gut and stuff like that. It sounds like it's kind of going more mainstream, and there's kind of a trend there. Is that kind of what you're seeing as well? Like as you kind of dive into it, you're like, holy shit, there's a lot of answers here.
Yeah. So in our life, everything that is physical and mental and emotional is tied to our gut and the balance of our gut. I mean, everything. Most people who struggle with anxiety, it's probably a gut issue. Most people who struggle with food sensitivities, it's a gut issue. Most people who are gaining weight and they can't figure out why, it's a gut issue. Almost everything in some senses is connected to gut issues, whether it's allergies to food, gluten intolerances, lactose intolerance, or like leaky gut. There's the list goes on and on and on. And over time, because of what we eat, our gut just gets destroyed. And that's what breaks down food. That's what delivers nutrients. That's what gets rid of nutrients. I mean, that does everything. So when that's out of whack, everything's out of whack. And so about 3 months ago, I was spending time with Flex Lewis. He was staying at my house, and he had told me that he was just gaining massive amounts of weight, and he never had an appetite, and he was running into all these issues as he was preparing for Mr. Olympia. And he said, hey dude, I started with a gut specialist. I'll let you know how it goes. And then I met with him. I went out to his gym to work out like 6-7 weeks ago, and he was completely different. His skin color was different. He was leaner. He had more energy, all of those things. And I said, dude, what's going on? He's like, dude, the gut specialist just changed my life, like made everything better. He's like, I've lost weight, but it's, bad weight. Mm-hmm. I feel better, all of these things. So he actually gave me the guy's number. And I started working with him. And in fact, I'm doing tons and tons of tests right now. In fact, I'm looking at all my tests behind this phone of things I got to do to figure out what the issues are with my gut.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, is it expensive? Like, is this something that like average folks can do, or is it like?
I think so,
because it's probably not covered by insurance and stuff, right? I mean, it's kind of completely different.
And I don't know. I've actually haven't had insurance for almost 10 years, so I don't know how insurance would cover it. But I would imagine if you went into the doctor and had them start prescribing things, the tests and things would be covered. But actually working with a gut specialist, probably could cost anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000. Yeah. But no matter who it is, when you feel better, it's worth all the money in the world, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably a relatively small price to pay if you're gonna change like the outlook of your life. Because I
Yeah,
feel like that's a huge thing. That's kind of why, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast and create this podcast was because is like just trying to provide little educational nuggets and stuff like that of like real life people that are kind of, I feel like we have a lot of similar struggles, but
yeah,
people are very careful on how they display those because of social media and, you know, every like cancel culture. And it's like, I loved one of your posts that you had, I don't know, maybe it's a month ago, but you were like, hey, listen, like it's okay to be masculine, make a ton of money, provide for your family. And like for me, it's so cool to see somebody get out there and say those type of things. Cause for some reason, I mean, even because I have a professional job that I do, I mean, this is just for fun, the podcast, right? So I'm even held back a little bit on certain things that I share and say because I know maybe one of my clients or somebody who knows me in business is going to like judge me. And
yeah,
I'm like, man, I'm tired of living a life where I can't be 100% me. And
yeah.
I look at you, and that's why I reached out to you, is because I'm like, man, this dude is just like being 100% real. I know you got the show on Discovery with Diesel Brothers and all this stuff, but you find ways to still be original. And I think that's like super, super cool. So,
Well, and the thing is, man, I, I mean, everybody at some point in their life has to be faced with, do I want to be honest and real and change, or do I want to keep down the bullshit and the path of pretending and faking and lying, and remain the same? And I just got to a place in my life really early on. I'm only 33. Yeah, 33. That you just get tired of your own bullshit. You get tired of pretending like everything's great and you're just doing all these great things. And so for you to really change and become successful, you got to be real. I mean, dude, I would love to sit here and say I could outwork everybody and one day be on stage, and beat everybody. It's never going to happen. It's genetically not going to happen. But I can be really happy. I can be really healthy. I can do all of those things. And everything in life, there's always hurdles. If you're not honest and open about hurdles, how are you going to get over? And without the ability to look at something unbiasedly and be honest about it, how do you beat it? How do you fix it? How do you win? And so that's kind of what I've taken on. I'm a lot for some people. A lot of people have a really hard time with how open and in their face I am, and that's kind of that's a good marker for me whether I want them around me or not. For being open and honest about what I do and how I am and all of those things, I probably don't want them in my life anyways.
yeah.
But dude, I mean, everything, all the way down to gut health. Like if you're not open and honest about stuff, you can't fix things. And I'm all about fixing and getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard you on Heavy's podcast. You were kind of sharing an experience where like that wasn't always you. Like, weren't you kind of like when you were younger? Weren't you kind of quiet, kind of just in the corner, kind of just observing and
So
watching?
no, I mean, I've always been big and kind of outgoing, but
Hmm.
I've always been, I used to be anyways, really, really self-conscious. And I used to be really worried about what people thought of me. Like that was my huge downfall when I got out of my first marriage. The reason it took so long is I was so worried about what people were going to think. Like, oh man, like this is, and it happened right after we became famous. So I thought, oh, people are going to think, oh, he became famous and now he's leaving his wife, all those things. And all growing up, dude, I was the guy trying to mask that insecurity and anxiety by trying to like be funny and open and outgoing, but it was always masking this concern of like, oh man, what do people think? And then I got to a place where I realized it really doesn't matter what people think. Their opinion means absolutely nothing. Nobody's opinion means anything to me except for maybe my children's opinion.
Right.
And my fiance's opinion. Outside of that, I don't give a shit about what people think or what they perceive. I don't care to defend myself against stupid stuff. I don't care to take accolades of what people think is cool and so on and so forth. But it's taken a long time to get there. And the only way that I could get there was by being way open and way honest. You know, if you're an idiot and you made mistakes, it's so much easier for you to come out and go, I'm an idiot, I made mistakes, myself, than it is to say, no, I know what I'm doing. I know exactly what's going on. I didn't make any mistakes, because then more people think you're an idiot, dude. You're a liar. You're not being open and honest. I'm not going to listen to you. And so now for me to kind of get over that, it's like, dude, this is me. I make tons of mistakes. I'm fat. I eat bad food. I swear a lot. I do. You know, I got all of these issues that I'm trying to work on and become better, but you're not going to be the one to point them out. I am, because I want people to know, like, struggling like everybody else to become better in every aspect.
Absolutely, man. I totally agree with that. Like, self-awareness has been a huge thing that's helped me, like, take it to that next level in my life. It's just, I'm ultra self-aware to where it's almost a weakness, because I'm my worst critic, but I'd rather be my worst critic instead of people pointing out stuff. It's almost like the haters can't come at me because I already know my flaws.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I know that I'm imperfect, so I don't need you to sit there and tell me. And then I just realize more and more as I dissect life and people, and social media is like this, to me, it's like this huge science experiment, like where you see how people are, and it's interesting to me, like the front that they'll do on like Instagram or Facebook or whatever. And then seeing them in real life, you're like, dude, that's not that person. And that's why I felt like, hey, you know what? I'm going to bring a podcast where it's just like real raw truth, instead of somebody's like, damn, I got to get to 100,000 followers or whatever. Like, is this content that I'm putting out there, is it going to get a lot of likes? And I just don't think that's the way to go. I think putting content out there that's like truly you and 100% real, like that's what people need more of in their life,
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree 100%, man. The more real that you are, the more you're going to be able to progress. And the more fake you are, the more you will remain the same. And that's as simply put as you could possibly put it. And most people, and this is a hard truth, most people are fake as shit. So they're never progressing.
Yeah. What was it like, that jump, like from just kind of like going through life, and then all of a sudden, like, was it just one day you were like, boom, famous? Was that like, what was that transition like?
No, I mean, I think some people, that's the way it happens. For us, it didn't happen that way. We became famous on social media fairly fast, when Facebook came out. And, overnight it was kind of, but social media famous was never really a big thing back then. Now it is, social media, it puts some people up with celebrities, A class celebrities. And it was kind of really quickly that we became famous on social media. And then all of a sudden we started our show, and our show's first season, we became a little bit more famous. And then after about season 2 or 3, it just kind of, we were famous. Everywhere we went, people knew who we were. And it's really, really humbling, man. It's really, really cool to be able to roll into any airport at any time and have at least 10 people there know who I am and know my life story and want to take a picture or want an autograph or, whatever. It's really, really a cool thing. I think it's humbling that people even give a shit about me and my life. So it's one of those things that I feel like I'm really blessed to be able to have that. And I don't take it as anything that makes me any better than anybody else. I think a lot of people do sometimes.
Sure.
And Diesel Dave is one of those too. That's like, it just couldn't have happened. So being a celebrity couldn't have happened to a better person, because he's so cool and real and down to earth and so grateful for everything that we have. Because, the thing is, and I say this all the time, like, dude, at some point our show's going to go away and the fame will probably fade. And then it's like, well, who are you now? Because you were a jackass when you became famous. You're not famous anymore. So who are you now? You're nobody. You're somebody who people bad and poorly. And we've kind of always kept that in our mind. So as we become more famous, quote unquote, we've kind of just held true to the fact that, this is just a fun ride, and we need to be really humble about the fact of where we're at.
Yeah. And I could see you guys, like, just, you put a lot of positive energy out there. I mean, I think about Heavy D and Diesel Dave, like what you guys are able to do with with the I don't want to say power, but like with the influence, like everything's all positive. You know what I mean? It's like encourages people to get out there and to do certain things and to look at things differently, and like, all the different places you guys have helped with like money and stuff like that. It's just crazy, man. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that has to come from like, doesn't a lot of that come from like the LDS background? I mean, I don't want to get off
Yeah.
on some religious thing, but I mean,
Yeah,
I guess you don't have to be LDS to be a good person, but I'm just saying, like,
no,
you know what I
no.
mean? Like that upbringing, it's kind of like, hey, we're here, like we're gonna give back.
Yeah, I think a lot of it. I mean, listen, man, I attribute a lot of my successes to the fact that I was a missionary one time. That being a missionary was probably one of the hardest things I ever did in my life. And that was a big part of getting out of my own way of worrying about what people thought. I mean, dude, when you put on a suit and a tie and you get on a bicycle and wear a helmet at 20 years old, that will real quickly humble you to not care anymore what people think, and so, and Heavy D and Diesel Dave, all three of us would say that was a pivotal point in our life, and every good thing that we have in our life, some of that has stemmed from being a missionary, which is being LDS. And so our faith is a big part of what we do. All of us, even though we're all wild, including myself, with tattoos and swear words and all kinds of stuff, we're all very religious people, and kind of hold strong to that idea. And I would say, every good thing that I have in my life has come, a majority of it has come from that belief and that foundation.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. How do you, like, what are some of the biggest factors that has helped you be successful? Like, if you had to kind of pinpoint it down, like, is it perseverance? Is it sacrificing? Like being able to just like fight through struggle? Like, what is it that has really set you apart, you think?
Honestly, I think about this often, and I think there's only one thing that is different between people who are successful and people who aren't. And I think it's urgency. I genuinely believe that it's urgency. I think everybody works hard every now and again.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has good luck and bad luck every now and again. I think everybody has opportunities now and again, whether some people get more or some people don't, I think everybody has good intentions every now and again. But I think very, very, very few people are urgently engaged in changing their lives, in becoming more successful, in being better, in making more money. And when I say urgent, I mean, you hear about Elon Musk. He always talks about make 10-year goals and then accomplish them in a year. And that's true. I mean, dude, to do what he's done in the amount of time that he's done, it's all based around one thing. He was urgent. He's urgently engaged in trying to make shit happen. Now, would it have happened by the time he was 80? Yeah, I'm sure it would have. Yeah. But he's successful now because he urgently was trying to get things done. And that's how I feel, man. I'm really, really blessed, successful, blessed financially, and I'm 33 years old, and there is no other reason than I just urgently am doing things, to the point of obsession, to the point of feeling anxiety when I'm not moving, when I'm not progressing and not pushing. And sometimes that obsession and anxiety, those become crippling to some people. But realistically, the remedy to anxiety and stress is action, right?
Yeah.
And I'm always trying to get rid of my anxiety and stress. And so I'm always acting, and I'm urgently doing something. It might take, in fact, I'm talking to my builders about building my house. It is supposed to take a year to build my house. And I said, no, we're going to build my house in less than 6 months, period, end of story. And if you can't do it, I will find someone else, or I will do it myself, and of course we're 3 months in, and they're like, I can't believe we're as far as we are. I would have thought we would have been, a ways away from all of this. And that's realistic, dude. Like, if you want to become more successful, you got to be urgent as shit.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. That's a good way of looking at it.
I mean, there might be somebody saying like, so like say somebody has like a full-time career right now and they're just not happy in that career. And this is really where I want to talk to people is like, because I'm trying to find different avenues. Like I'm ADD, man. Like I take all these different paths, but it's my path. And then I'm just looking at direction instead of speed. You know what I mean? It's like as long as I'm going down one of these, and I have a bad tendency of just like breaking off too much. But for
Yeah.
me, it's like shit. I only have so much time. You know, I just turned 36 last week, and I've accomplished way more. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. Honestly, is that I felt like I I overachieved, like from my upbringing being just like super poor when I was young, coming from a step family or having a step family, having a single mom raise 3 kids. Like my expectation, like from the outside looking in, you probably wouldn't have been like, oh, that kid's probably not going to make it very far. But I don't know what happened. I blew through that ceiling. And so now for me, it's kind of like I blew through that ceiling and I'm just kind of up in the air, like, oh
Yeah.
damn, where do I go now? You know,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to figure that out. And so for me, I just try taking different paths all the time. Like, hey, I'm going to do the podcast. Hey, I'm going to, start this business over here, help my wife start this business here, and just kind of see where it all goes. Because at the end of the day, I feel like even if I think that is success, you know what I mean? That willingness
Yeah.
to fight for it and to try for it and just see where you land. Because
Yeah.
it doesn't, in 2021, it just takes one thing to hit for you to like really find that passion and where you can monetize that passion to where it's like, hey,
Yeah.
this is fruitful for my family and it allows me to do what I love.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, I think the most successful people are people that are willing to try and fail, and obviously urgently try and fail. And your question of how does somebody do it that's doing a 9 to 5, that's making decent money, that's trying to get out of the rat race. The reality is this: listen, if you told me you worked 50 hours a week, I would tell you you're working part time. Right. And a 9 to 5 gets you 40 hours a week. So you're working part time for a company that's sustainably giving you money, for, as long as you keep doing that job. That's great. The rest of the time, the other 50 or 60 hours that week, you should be putting into yourself and making yourself money and making mistakes and growing and seeing what you can do. I never tell people to just up and quit and go chase their dreams. But if if you had an hourglass in front of you and you could see how long you were living and you watched that thing just slowly drizzle away, I promise you that you would be making huge changes in your life and doing things differently. And so when people are going to a job 9 to 5 and plan on 40 years from now retiring with $1 million in their bank account, that's a shitty way to be, man. That's a shitty way to live. Like, live now, do what you want to do, figure out what you want to do. And while you're making money to provide to get to where you want to be, you should be spending the time chasing that. Dude, unless you're working 90 to 100 hours a week, then I would maybe say you don't have time to do something else. But listen, I'm the poster child for having enough time. I'm a single father of 2 girls. I have a TV show. I go to the gym. I have 4 companies that I'm running. And then on top of all of that, I now have a new relationship with my fiance that I'm cultivating and trying to make work. So every kind of avenue that you would ever hear somebody say, well, I'm a single parent, or I have a company I'm running, or I have a TV show, or dude, the list goes on and on. And guess what, man? I take on new things all the time. And if it makes sense and makes money, I do it. And you don't hear me say, well, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. And that's a big problem. You do have time for it. What you don't have time for is just letting your life slip away, because at some point you'll be on your deathbed and you're going to go, I really wish I didn't work that 9 to 5. I wish I would have taken more mistakes and risks. And I wish I would have gained more in life, and I think that's a big part for people, especially the person saying, hey man, I work 9 to 5. How do I find time to do something else? It's like, bro, you're 40 hours. I'll have 40 hours done by Tuesday. That leaves me the rest of the week. Yeah. And there's no such thing as a weekend. I don't want to hear everybody talks about 5-day work week. No. You work 7 days. You work all the time, and you find out what you need to do in that time and prioritize to become successful.
Yeah, dude, 100%. I mean, that's kind of how I came up with the name of the podcast, Someday Life, was that a lot of people, it's like someday I'll do this or someday I'll do that. And then 40 years go by and they're like, shit, there goes my life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's
Yeah.
like you have this mentality of where you just keep saying someday you'll do it, someday you'll do it, and then you never do. And I think a lot of that, my firsthand experience came, I'm an insurance agent, so I've been doing that for 12 years and just talk to thousands of people a year. And it's so interesting, the conversations that I get in with people. I'll talk to gentlemen and women that are, retiring and stuff, and they just tell me about all these ambitions that they had in life. And like, I'm insuring a house that's not paid off, insuring vehicles that they're financed to the nuts on, and
Yeah.
they're approaching retirement, and they have very little in a 401k, but they just never lived their life. And when I hear personal people or like eyewitness encounters of people telling me that they didn't live their life, it scares the hell out of me. So I'm like, no. Like, once you get a good salary, like that was one thing that I had to get over, was like, okay, I made the 6-figure number. That's always a big thing, right? Is like, hey, make 6 figures and you got it made.
Yeah.
So everybody like gets there, and then you get to that spot, and then that corporation just kind of, or that employer just kind of holds you down. I think Warren Buffett said, like, a salary is what they give you to kill your dreams.
It is. Bro, I mean, if people, I mean, and an insurance agency is a good one to look at. Like, you can do insurance for a company and you can make that company millions of dollars and they'll pay you a few $100,000.
Yep.
And the truth is, you did the work. Why can't you do it for yourself? And that really is true, man. The worst enemy to better, or the worst enemy for best, is good, right? Like, I want to make $1 million, but 100,000 is good enough. I want to be really, really successful, but this 9 to 5 is paying me 120 grand a year. I'm good. And that is, dude, they're pacifying people with something that's much smaller than they can achieve themselves. And that's just what it is. And until people realize that the ability that they have, they're going to remain in that 9 to 5, and they're going to live out their lives and retire at 65 and die at 80 and do half or 1/4 of what they really could have done, And that's why, like I said, it goes back to urgency. Like, I urgently want to move forward. I urgently want to change this. I urgently want to make more money. Like, and when I say urgent, I mean urgently. The speaker E.T. Have you heard of him?
Yeah. I like E.T. He's a dope, man.
He talks about when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. And what he's really telling you is, if I were to hold you underwater, where would your mind go? And your mind goes to one thing, and it goes to one thing until that thing is accomplished. And it goes there as fast and quickly and effectively as it possibly can. And then you do everything you possibly can to achieve that. Right? So if I hold you underwater, all you're thinking about is getting breath and figuring out how you're going to get your next breath. And it is so urgent that there's nothing else in your way to getting to that. And that's the urgency that he talks about. He just gives a parable about it. And it's the same thing. I feel like, man, if I took away everything from you and I told you that you couldn't do anything until you learned how to go after one thing and one thing only until you accomplished it, you would change. Everything would change. It wouldn't take a day to write down your goals. It wouldn't take a week to figure out what you want to do. Like, things would happen now. And if you can urgently get things going and moving, you're going to be successful.
Yeah. I mean, think about, like, if you got in a fight, like, you had to defend yourself. I mean, think about the urgency that happens right there when it's like life or death situation. I mean, it's exactly what you're talking about, right? Is like, that urgency will allow you to do things that you never thought that you were capable of.
Oh yeah. And you'll make tons of mistakes, but it'll show you what you can do.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to get, so I have a 6-year-old daughter. I know your daughter recently, I believe, had a birthday and stuff like that. And I see you kind of post stuff about your 2 daughters. I wanted to get your advice, and like, just dads out there that are listening to this podcast that are, that have young daughters. I mean, you're kind of in a different, situation. I mean, whether you're a single dad or a married dad, whatever, like what's your advice or your 2 cents on raising young daughters? I got two older boys as well, a 6 or
Yeah.
a 9 and 10-year-old. And I can just tell you that it's the dynamics there, bro, is, I mean, it is insane.
Wait.
Different things that go on, but
I I don't know if I would say I'm an expert on raising children, but I can definitely say I'm probably an expert now with raising daughters. And the only reason I say that is because I have two, and then my fiance has another girl, and then my fiance is also pregnant with another girl. So now I'm gonna have girls in the house. But I think raising daughters is going to be the same as raising boys when it comes to how you do it. Now, I think there's different methods, and I think there's things that you can change. I'm all for spanking your kids. I don't spank my daughters. I don't hit my daughters. I definitely would spank the shit out of my sons if I had some sons. But I think it's really, really simple for parents. It's way more simple than we've created. I firmly believe in a God in heaven, and I believe that he's our father, right? And so I always put everything I do back on, if he is a God and if he is our father, how does he parent us? And I want to follow how he parents me with how I parent my children. My parents were really good. My dad died when I was young, but I had really great parents. But I use, a God in heaven as for how I govern and parent and love my children. Essentially, it's teach them what you can teach them and allow them to govern themselves. Love them no matter what. You just love them, and you teach them that there is nothing else in this world that they could go to that they would find more love than when they come to you, right? And that's a really hard principle. It's easy by word, but it's hard by action. It's really easy to say, well, I'm always going to love you. But when your children make stupid mistakes that affect everything, it's really hard not to judge them and be angry and be mad and even not love them. But the truth is that if you can let them know, hey, man, no matter what you do, I'm going to love you. I will always love you. And you're never going to find any more love anywhere else in this world. Then I believe that you're creating a platform for them to know that whenever they fall or they fail or they don't succeed, that platform will always be there for them. A lot of people have a lot of issues, and I think a lot of those issues stem back to feeling abandoned and feeling like they don't have support and they don't have love, and you can get rid of all of those things. And then the second piece to that, which is I think the hardest piece, is how often does God interfere in your life? Very rarely. He doesn't. He lets you do your thing. We know what we should be doing. And he lets us do it. He doesn't step in when we're about to make a really stupid decision and make us change our mind. He allows us to learn. And that's the same thing I believe with the children. With my daughters, I teach them this is the correct way, and this will be the easiest way, and this will be the best way. But you get to choose. You get to make your own decisions. And when you fall, I'll always be there to love you, but I'm not going to pick you up. Because you have to learn. Because when we make our own mistakes, God doesn't step in and go, oh man, I know this one's really going to have a lot of consequences. I'm going to take these away. He doesn't. He just allows us to deal with the consequences, and then he supports us and he loves us through it. And essentially, that's the same thing that I think with children and raising children, it needs to be. They need to make their own decisions. They need to feel their own consequences. And throughout all of that, whether it's a good or a bad consequence, you as a parent have one role. That's to love and support them and allow them to learn and grow. And that's it, man. There's really nothing else. We see a lot of, I don't know what the word is, like helicopter or like just this like hovering parenting, where they don't want their kids to make bad choices, and they don't want them to fail, and they don't want them to get hurt, and they don't want them to feel pain. But the truth is that's how you learn. Any parent, any good loving parent is going to say, I don't want my kids to feel pain, but God, who's our father, allows us to feel pain, and he does it because it teaches us. In my life, pain is the number one teacher. And consequences of pain is the number one teacher. And so where I would love to make a mistake and turn around and go, oh God, can you please take that away? He's going to sit by and go, no, I can't, but I'll love you through this. And I'm going to be here for you. And you're going to learn. And when you learn, you're going to be better and grow and progress and all of those things. And with my daughters, that's essentially how I've adapted to parenting them. You know, some people think I'm so crazy because I let them make a lot of mistakes, a ton of mistakes, and I don't rush in to save them. In fact, just recently we were out to dinner, and my younger daughter, she's crazy. She's all over the place, and she always gets hurt. She's broken 2 bones already. She had a compound fracture in her arm when she was 2.
Dang.
And it's because she's wild and crazy and she's not careful. So I can run in and I can fix it and she'll never learn, or I can allow her to learn and grow through making the mistakes, right? And we were out to dinner and she fell over in her chair, bonked her head, you know, like she got hurt. I picked her up and I said, shouldn't do that. If you do that, you're going to hurt. Well, 10 minutes later, she started to do it again. And I didn't step in and say, hey, remember what I said? You're going to get hurt. And guess what? She got hurt again, bonked her head, busted her whole thing. She's bawling and she wants me to sit there and hold her. I said, no. You decided that you wanted to do this. You decided after I told you this wasn't a good idea, and after you knew it wasn't a good idea, to do it. And now you have to deal with the consequences. I love you, but if you're going to do stupid things, things are going to happen and it's going to hurt. And I'm not going to rush in. And so I think, you know, I could go on and on about stuff like that, but
yeah,
man, I think it's really simple. The way you should raise your children, especially your daughters, is love them, love the hell out of them, and be there for them. But let them learn and grow. And if you believe in a God who is a father, them the same way he parents you. You know, love them, let them hurt, let them feel pain. Don't run in and rescue them because they're never going to learn. And I think today in society, one of our biggest issues is that there's so many parents that have blocked their children from pain, that their children have now grown out of control and they're wild and crazy and they can't figure out how they're going to fix those kids. You know, a perfect example is people that talk shit on social media. You know, if we were kids and we talked shit, we got punched in the mouth. So we don't do it. It's the same thing today, but now you have kids who are doing things and their parents are stepping in to say, oh, I don't want you to feel the pain and the hurt of your consequence. Well, you have to. That's how you learn. And if you want to be a good parent, love the shit out of them and let them hurt and feel their consequences.
Yeah, man, I love how you put it that way. I think I try to do that with my kids. It's tough. That, I mean, it kind of, my wife and I were just talking last night about this, you know, with Easter coming up and stuff like that, and kind of what we're going to do as a family. And it's just weird. We talk about like the stuff that we didn't have growing up. And I have this fear that my kids, like, we make a good living, we're comfortable. My kids have everything that they could want. They've had way more opportunities than I ever had at their age. And I'm like, am I fostering that in a right way because I have the resources to do it? Or do I need to rein it back a little bit and be like, hey, I need them to struggle a little bit. Like but there's my boys, they're 9 and 10, and they're starting to kind of see the differences in like what we have versus what other people don't have.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
So like my son's like, he expects like, hey, I want the new Xbox that comes out, you know, because he knows mom and dad could get that for him. And so I'm trying to find ways, like, I'm like, okay, you need to go pick up dog poop in the yard. You know, we need to rake the leaves. You know, you kind of know where I live. My family has a cattle ranch. And so anytime, and that's what I grew up doing, is on a cattle ranch at a very young age, learning how to work. And so I'm trying to, you know, put that type of lifestyle into my kids.
Yeah.
And it's tough for me, man, because when you have the resources, when you didn't, when you were growing up, but now you have like stuff that you could easily make your kid's life easy, and buying the nice clothes, buying the brand new basketball hoop, the Xboxes that, you know, it's like, man, am I doing the wrong thing here? Like, how should I be going about this?
Well, and the thing is, dude, you're not. Like, man, I spoil the shit out of my children. And And that's okay. That's not ever an issue. To show your children what life can bring them and give them, there's no problem there. The problem in turn becomes when they want to make decisions and there's consequences to those decisions. When you step in to try to soften that blow and not allow them to learn, then you get to that place of like, oh, now you're creating a spoiled brat who doesn't know what consequences are. I don't think there's any problem with spoiling your children. I think there's problems in allowing your children to make their own decisions and then take the consequences away from them because you have the ability to do that, you know? And so that's where I don't think there's a problem with spoiling kids. I really don't, man. I think, you know, my parents weren't rich by any means, but they gave us a lot of things. But man, my dad was hard on us and he taught us a lot of valuable lessons that I see every day people don't understand. And just because he gave us things didn't mean that we weren't able to be taught. And, you know, the reality is if you're going to be a really good parent at some point soon in the next 8 to 10 years, both of your sons are going to leave and you get to step back, man. You get to say, gave you Xboxes and motorcycles and cars and all of this stuff. You're 18 now. You're a man. You got to go get it yourself. And no, I'm not going to help you do it. You got to do it. And that's when you really have to stand back and say, man, it's going to be tough to watch him live in an apartment and have no money and cry about not having food. And you can't step in and say, well, let me fix everything, because they're never going to learn and they're never going to learn how to become successful. You know, I go back to Elon Musk, but, you know, he started that school for his children and the school is very specific. They get to pick what they want to learn. And then he teaches them or they get taught, right? So instead of taking a kid to school and saying, you got to learn math and English and history and yada, yada, you say, no, what do you want to learn? And then once you tell me what you want to learn, I'm going to show you how you're going to learn it. And I'm not going to step in and save you when it's time for you to go, oh man, I don't think I really want to learn this. No, you made this decision. This is what you wanted to learn and you're going to learn. And that's the way schooling should be. That's the way that life should be. But in the interim of all of that, as your kids grow up, it doesn't mean you shouldn't spoil them and show them what life has to offer. But when it's time to let go, you got to be able to let go, just like God does, and say, hey, man, you know, if you do what you're supposed to, you're going to have all of these things that I have. Mm-hmm. And he showed it to us once, right? And then he let us go. And now we get to learn and grow. And he's not stepping in to save us. Now, and that's not to say sometimes he doesn't help, but he's always there to support and love. But it still doesn't change the fact that he doesn't step in and take away consequences.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I found that like experience is usually the thing that you get when you don't get what you want. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like in sports, business, relationships, and stuff. I mean, you get that experience and it makes you, I mean, that makes you who you are. And like, right. I mean, you hit it right on the head. You see in today's society, you know, I coach youth sports and things like that. And like some of the stuff that I hear, like some teachers tell me and stuff that I see on social media, like the disrespect that comes out of kids now, dude, it is insane. It's just disgusting to see. And it's like, how would you ever treat a teacher that way? If I ever treated my teacher that way, dude, he would smack my hands with a ruler, or she would send me to the principal's office, kick my ass out. And now these people like that we depend on to help our children and be mentors, like they're scared to do that. Like whether you're a coach, you're a teacher, even if you're, you know, somebody at church and a kid's acting out and that person needs to like, you know, educate the child, like parents are like, oh, here's my camera phone. Look what look what happened. Yeah. And they put it on social media and then it just like, boom, freaking forest fire, man.
Yeah. And the truth is, once again, it goes back to there being no consequences for those kids in the lives of them at home. You know, you don't see bad mouthing when they start to talk back to their parents, they get smacked. You know, you don't see kids doing stupid things because when they were home, their parents didn't shield them from consequences. And they thought, I don't want that. I don't want that to happen. You know, I don't want to go rob a store because I don't want to go to prison. I don't want to talk shit to that guy because he's going to punch me in the mouth. They learn that when they make stupid decisions, there's stupid consequences that didn't get shielded by the parents. And the problem is today with kids is they're being shielded by consequences from their parents.
Yep.
So.
Well, hey, Keaton, man, I will let you go. I know you got a busy day. And I mean, you're always grinding and stuff, but I want to just thank you again for taking the 50 minutes or whatever we did and kind of coming on the podcast and helping me get some good positive energy out there to people, man. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad I had some time to do it, brother.
Yeah, dude. Okay, well, we'll keep following you, man. Keep doing your thing. Keep freaking setting the example for us all, man. And we'll be right there supporting you, dude.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Okay. Keaton Hoskins, everybody, a.k.a. The Muscle. Love you guys. See you, Keaton.
All right, brother.